Sonic, you're listening to the voice of HGS.
At HGS UK, we believe as a leadership team and an executive team that behaviours are so important because they will embed our culture.
The behaviours are essentially, this guidance, for want of a better word, in terms of what we want to see out the organisation, and bringing people together, like-minded people together to really execute that and evidence that on a day-to-day basis.
It's not about bottom up, it's about top down. So how is our top leaders in our business demonstrating how's that being cascaded through your business?
Giving people the autonomy to go, right, you've had the idea, go and pursue it. Go and try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least we've tried. And at least we can take those learnings and apply it to the future. What you want as a leader is, I didn't ask them to do that. I didn't go out and go, make this bit of the world better. They recognised it by sitting in that day in, day out and recognising that there was a problem that they could fix.
Another episode of Sonic kicked off HGS's very own podcast series, and I'm Ahalya, joining you, keeping you company today. We've actually got a very interesting conversation about something that is very primal to all of us as human beings, but we're going to see how it really interacts, with the organization as a whole. Joining me today on the podcast are Gráinne O'Kane, VP People Services, HGS UK, and Carrie Ramskill, COO UK and EMEA. Thank you so much, Carrie, Gráinne, for joining us on Sonic, and I'll contextualize the conversation in a bit, but first let me say hello.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone, thanks for having us today on the podcast to discuss our behaviours. Thank you.
Yes, behaviours, that's the buzzword for today, where we have, sort of launched these 7 core behaviours, right, at HGS UK. And we're really looking forward to seeing how it's going to shape up and shape the culture within the organisation, as well as, really determine our progress in the world of digital transformation. So let's dive straight into it. Gráinne, I think the first question, if you can open the conversation up for us, talk to us a little bit about how you view behavior interacting with the organization as a whole, and why you think it's so integral to have these articulated.
Thank you. Thanks for that first question. I'll do my best to try and articulate our behaviours. I think at HGS UK, we believe as a leadership team and an executive team that behaviours are so important because they will embed our culture. They will provide a landscape for how we operate, not just from a people perspective, and that our people are obviously very important, but from a client perspective and a customer perspective. Mm-hmm. Because really behaviours, they foster a supportive working environment, they drive innovation, they ensure success for customer and for client, and of course, as I said earlier, for our people, and that's one of the most important things. And I think they test us all at times, because it's a test as to, if you see someone demonstrate a good behaviour, then, I call that out, celebrate that success. And equally, if you think that behaviour maybe isn't providing the right landscape, then equally call that out peer to peer. If I just take 2 of the behaviours that I believe are very important to us, whilst they all have their own level of importance, partnerships and relationships are key.
Right.
They're not just key for people and customers, but also our clients, and they ultimately lead to growth. So how we operate, how we conduct ourselves, how we work together as a management and leadership team, how we cascade that view down through our people, and then how our people work with our customers and our clients in turn. They make that, I suppose it's a full joint up approach as to how we conduct ourselves at HGS. And then the other one that I like as well is, because I just think it's so important, right from our front line, is leading our teams, leading our people. How do we lead our people? How do we lead our teams? How do we lead by example?
Yeah. How
do we support our people? Through good times and through a bit sometimes tougher times. Our people leaders have a lot to deal with. They manage our people, they manage our performance, they manage our customer, they manage our clients, and that can be challenging at times. So leading teams to me, again, extremely important. Being there, being present, and making sure that we have a safe working environment for our people sets us apart at HGS, I believe.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic opening. Thank you so much for that. And we are going to dive a little bit deeper into, the cultural transformation that will hopefully happen with these behaviors on hand. But, another big point of conversation throughout the HGS universe, right, across geographies, has, of course, been the transformation of our digital CX work as well, right? Carrie, if I could address this question to you, rope you into the conversation now about how you think these behaviors are going to, shape our, customer digital CX experience with, these behaviors on hand.
Sure. I think from my perspective, as a business, we need to stay relevant. We need to move at pace to stay competitive in the market. All the things that we instinctively know we need to do as a business. But I think it's about bringing people on that journey with you as a business. I think, from our perspective, as we do the digital evolution, as we adapt to new technologies, new ways of working, essentially we're a people business and people are at the heart of our business. And I see very much our approach is that we'll always be a people business, and people and technology have to learn to work alongside each other. And I think that's the bit where the values will really help our people, that this isn't necessarily about replacing people. That's never the goal. Is how do the two complement each other, and how do we use the company behaviours to ultimately educate people on the technologies that are out there, make people feel comfortable in that environment, giving people a mentality that, we're delivering excellence, but there's different ways to do that. It doesn't need to be traditional methods. I look at an example like with the UK HSA ramp that we've recently done in terms of the vaccination programme for COVID. That, ultimately that is old school BPO, as you'd like to call it. It's about getting people there, answering calls to customers. And that's ultimately essentially what the UK government want. The need for that hasn't gone away. We still need to be excellent at delivering those services, because being excellent at delivering those services are what's opening the door for us as an organisation to have further conversations about digital transformations, about capability, about systems. But if I look at that as an example, yes, the front end of it was your typical kind of answering calls to the UK taxpayer who needed us at a time of difficulty. But behind the scenes, the team were really challenging a different way of working, from how we hire people to how we bring them through, how we onboard them, using bots that we built ourselves in a system where, 3 people who are typically agents in our organisation took it upon themselves to learn these technologies, to apply these technologies to our BAU business, and make really streamlined processes that were self-serve, that normally we'd hire a team of people to be there at the end of the phone, that we just didn't need. And for me, I look at those examples and people that work in the organisation, like Ian Birch, Mark Busuttil, Cheryl Whitfield, they took it upon themselves to adopt that, to look at new technologies, not to replace our people, not to disempower our people, but to really complement them and make them happier doing the job that they do. And I think that really encompasses the values for me, is that we're driving and delivering excellence, but we're using technology to do that in very different ways.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially what you said about understanding how, we can complement each other. I think that's something that's been a big conversation as well for mankind in general, with AI and everything coming through strong, and a reassuring fact as well, right, to explore it a little bit more. To move on, I think behaviors, as a podcaster, my experience has always been that with behavior, it's always one of the most difficult things to articulate, right? Because it's one of those things that takes time to sort of ingrain itself in a company's culture. And to add to that, it's difficult. You've got to walk the talk, right? So Gráinne, if you could also talk to us a little bit about how we're going to be walking that talk and ensuring that these behaviors, come off the walls and are more than just words.
Yeah, another, it can be quite difficult sometimes to do that, but I'm going to focus back on Carrie's example there, as she named quite a group of key people within our business who've been able to demonstrate transformation, and a key behavior is managing change and transformation. So how do we make that live? We congratulate, we celebrate success through our new R&R program, Ignite. So when these individuals who come forward and create these excellent processes through transformation, through change programs that run efficiencies through our business, then we celebrate that success, and that's done through Ignite. And Carrie, hit the nail on the head around, how do people demonstrate our values? And we call them out for that. And that should be how we assess our behaviours, reward these based on how people demonstrate, how they're encouraged to use their skill set within our business and positively reinforce each other. Again, calling out those successes. So that's a massive piece for us. So through reward and recognition. And then if I delve into performance management, it's also a key culture that we want to drive. So performance management is there obviously to support our individuals, to develop them, to move people on as they want to enhance their career journey with us. And that key part is not just about their competency, it's also how they demonstrate the behaviour. Mm-hmm. So it's not about what you're doing, it's how you're doing it, how you've been able to showcase what you've done and how those behaviours sit underneath that. So in my opinion, those are the two key areas that we can use initially to make it alive. So it's not just something that we post, it's not just something that we have on our walls or have as our background on our PC, that it's actually something that we do, and that should be demonstrated. And I know Carrie and I have spent an awful lot of time talking about how we make sure the cascade, because it's not about bottom up, it's about top down. So how is our top leaders in our business demonstrating, and how's that being cascaded through our business? And I think if that all comes together the way we envisage it will, then we set ourselves into that right culture.
I really like that, also taking existing frameworks and existing processes to sort of further reinforce, right, the good that can come out of these behaviors. And like you said, it is difficult, but walking the talk does give all of us a lot of joy. I think, it's kind of part of bringing your whole self to work.
And it's about bringing, that's excellent. Bring your whole self to work, show up and be present. Yeah. And always celebrate that. And sometimes people love to give feedback, but give the feedback around what you've noticed that's been good, positive, and how people can showcase that to other people as well. I think goes a long way.
Absolutely does. Can we actually talk a little bit about examples now, Carrie, to bounce it back to you? Anything that you've seen really play out? You did start us off with one, but if there are a couple more that you'd like to talk to us about now?
I think probably an example from my perspective, it relates to teamwork and collaboration and business appreciation, and that can come in all guises, I guess. And I think for me, the starting point really for that is sharing one purpose and one goal and the same set of values, and breaking down those silos in the organisation that typically exist because you're either motivated by your head of department, you're motivated by your personal goals, and it's actually drawing that back and going, actually, as a group of individuals who are all working to the same goal and the same purpose and the same values, what are we striving to achieve? And I think something that really brought to life for me recently is we have a whole support team that are there supporting the operation on a day-to-day basis, making the operation more effective and more efficient, looking for better ways of working. And typically in our industry, you'd see those kind of departments working, but again, to their own purpose, really. You'd look at workforce management, making sure that we hit hours, working at efficiencies, bringing in our revenue. You'd look at the quality team that's there observing how those calls are going. You'd look at the training team that's responsible for training individuals to go live on the phones. And those transactions, if you'd like, happen in isolation. And there's overlay, but not a deep level of overlay. It's almost like I've done my bit, I'll pass that over to the next team, etc. And something that I think from a HGS UK perspective that I've been incredibly proud of recently, where it has completely encompassed the values and ultimately where the company is looking to go is between the WFM quality training and operational team, where we've deployed a new system in workforce management called EEM. And we've also deployed a new tool called Nice QA in our quality team. And essentially, the team have essentially broke the boundaries of the typical norm. So the typical norm is that we do all of those things in isolation, as I explained. But now what the system recognises is, for example, if you're a frontline employee and you've answered the phone to a customer and you're struggling with one aspect of that call, and as a person, you don't come to work to struggle with an aspect of what you're doing, but essentially, practically in our terms, that might take a while for us to pick up because you have to do a certain amount of quality observations, certain amount of coachings a month. But essentially what the team have done is deploy the system that goes, actually, the system have recognised that there's a pattern with this individual. They're struggling with this element of the call. So you know what, Gráinne is really struggling with her compliance element. So when she first opens the call and you go through natural compliance, Gráinne seems like she's really struggling. The team have worked together that takes that ultimately from the quality team and the quality system and goes, right, Gráinne's got an opportunity here. That flows automatically through the workforce management system, and the workforce management system goes, right, I know I need to schedule some time for Gráinne because she needs some help. The system automatically does that without any manual intervention, and then essentially it schedules that time then with someone in training, whether that be an e-learning module that Gráinne can sit there at her own time and take at her own pace and do it. And in that case, there's not a human interaction that takes place. Or it diarises some time with a trainer to help her improve that element of the call, or with a team leader to do some coaching and really talk about what's driving that. For me, that's taking something that's typically standard in our world in terms of how those three silos connect together. We've taken out the legwork, we've taken out the, the manual intervention, and we've got all of those kind of connection points to seamlessly work together. But the only way that that's happened is not because the system's been designed for that to happen, is because like-minded people who've worked as a team, who wanted to collaborate, who wanted to drive the right outcomes for the business, got together and said, there's a different way of doing this, and I think there's an easier way of doing this. That wouldn't have happened without individuals sat behind it. The system just doesn't automatically go, one day I'm going to make life easier for people. It still needs brains that sit behind it, and those brains coming together. Yeah. And I think that the icing on the cake really for me in that example is the business appreciation that we talked about. Obviously, I recognise my team for the hard work and effort that they've done, but they also won 2 industry awards for that by putting that practically in place. So, and that's external verification from the forum, which is a UK body that recognises kind of new ways of working and talent within our sector. And to see that play out for those people who have felt empowered to make a difference, who have worked together to achieve that, and then see that play out on a public stage, for me, harnesses everything around that value of teamwork, collaboration and appreciation.
And I think, Carrie, I'm sure you'll agree with me, it comes from such a good place. It comes from having so much passion in what people want to achieve and how they want to see the business perform. The passion that people have, I mean, that's one thing I will never, ever be able to, I can't even articulate to anyone. People have such a great, especially the team Carrie just spoke about, who've won the 2 awards in our operational excellence. They want to do so much. They want people to be able to get the benefit of the systems that they can support to put in place to make life easier for individuals. So, it is all kudos to them. It's excellent. The passion is just, it's so strong.
And the biggest thing, what you want as a leader, is I didn't ask them to do that. I didn't go out and go, make this bit of the world better. They recognised it by sitting in that day in, day out, and recognising that there was a problem that they could fix. And they'd felt empowered to be able to research all of the different tools that are available on the market to then go off and implement. So really, really proud moment for me personally as a leader, but for the team as well.
Carrie, thank you so much for that really, detailed list of examples. And I think the next question that comes up, right, when we look at these great things happening is really how the behaviors also help us, allow us to make that happen. So if you could touch a little bit upon how we're going to also be shaping culture in the context of digital CX for the organization, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, it's creating a safe space for people for an idea and for a thought, and encouraging creative thinking, and be prepared to challenge the norm. I think that, for me, that's all created by the culture and the value system that you work within. And also being able to allocate the time and headspace to do that. I think it's really easy as an organisation. You get caught up in the day-to-day. And typically in my world, the day-to-day tends to be very reactive, solving client issues, meeting client demands, ensuring that, our frontline teams are happy and working well together. I think essentially allowing people the headspace to and the time to be able to look beyond what's in front of them today and the reactive nature of what we do. And I was speaking to a peer of mine the other day that essentially takes Friday afternoon to basically look at, right, what's happened this week, what would I have done a little bit differently, but actually research some of the tools and things that are happening in the market, research what's out there and what's driving different behaviours, but through a lens of what's happening in my life right now, what's happening in my world, and what's there to complement that. And that comes with real discipline to take yourself out of the day-to-day. And I'd hope that the behaviours and the culture that we adopt allows people that headspace to do that, but then also the freedom that people can learn from their mistakes. We're not going to be in a position as an organisation that we're just going to start all of these new capabilities. We're going to, the quest to digital is going to be carefree and seamless. We are going to come across quite a lot of bumps in the road. Some things are going to work out very well for us. Some things are not going to work out well for us. But we need to have the mindset that we're willing to try. We're willing to adopt new technologies, new ways of working, and give people the permission to do that. I think it's very hard to change a culture and foster a culture of innovation and change if you're not going to give them permission to create that change. And I think that's the biggest thing for me in terms of fostering that culture, is a safe space for people to have an idea, to run with that idea, but also feel empowered to be able to make that difference. And that comes down to giving people, the example that I used earlier in the podcast, giving people the autonomy to go, right, you've had the idea, go and pursue it, go and try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least we've tried, and at least we can take those learnings and apply it to the future. So that's really, from my perspective, is, the safe space, allocating time and attention to the future rather than just our present, and giving people autonomy in the teams. And I think the behaviours really speak to that we're trying to encourage people that, the behaviours are essentially, this guidance, for want of a better word, in terms of what we want to see out the organisation, and bringing people together, like-minded people together to really execute that and evidence that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really like that. And I think you've given all of us a good Friday afternoon idea as well to add to our calendars. No, but
I'll be hiding on a Friday.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault.
Under our tables. No, it's definitely, a good idea sometimes to take a step back and evaluate where we're at and how, behaviors can actually allow us to all unite. I think it's important at this point of the conversation to also, plug in that it's not about being the exact same person, right, throughout the organization, because every single person brings in such a unique perspective, but it's kind of the idea of working towards the same thing. And that's where that whole passion aspect comes into play, right? Because if you all believe in the same thing, then there's no telling where that can take us, but we can't go there without those unique and diverse perspectives. I think it's been a very, very fruitful conversation, and we've been able to really understand how this articulation of behaviors is going to carry us into the next couple of years, or the next era of HGS UK. To end, I'd like to ask both of you, Gráinne, maybe we'll start with you, your advice for how people can really embody these behaviors, because of course they are meant to cut across verticals, across types of work, right? They're supposed to unite. So how do you think everybody can make the best of them?
Personally, I'm a believer that, we or I should treat others how I would expect to be treated myself. So in your ways of working and how you develop a culture and how you live in that culture, that's something people need to think about, how they are behaving themselves. So I think we're coming up now to goal setting, and it's going to be a big topic of conversation as we move into the next few months.
Yeah.
So have a think about how you demonstrate your own behaviour and how the behaviours of others has been demonstrated as well, and that of which you're part of. So reflect on the behaviours and share some positive feedback with someone that you believe deserves it.
Awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. Carrie and I were just like, oh, okay. Carrie, for you to answer as well. Yeah.
If I can remember the first organisation that I worked in for 12 years, and I can still recite all 6 of their company values, A, because they didn't change over the years, and B, because they resonated with me as a human being. They weren't asking me to do something that felt uncomfortable to me, because actually they just resonated with who I am, who I wanted to be in business, and really drawing those behaviours depending on the role that you sit within as well. So I'll give you an example to that. If you sit in the recruitment team, understand how you can harness that behaviour and that value. You essentially are hiring people into the organisation that live and breathe those values, that are culturally aligned to the organisation. You're part of living out our values and the impact that it has on our organisation. Nobody in the business's part can be underestimated. Everyone has a different job to do. Everyone can apply the behaviours in a different way. It doesn't mean one area is more important to the other, but it's finding what makes sense to you as an individual, and in your role, what's going to have the biggest impact on the people that are around you. And I think it goes back to what Gráinne said. We can all reward and recognise people living them, and I think that's the first step, is that we recognise what the behaviours are, and we make sure that we recognise those people around us that are displaying them. But then also we have the culture with the accountability that if people aren't living those behaviours, then we're going to call people out and hold people accountable. We can't go to the lengths as an organisation to create behaviours and then have people not being like-minded with the rest of us. So it's about recognition, and it's about holding each other accountable for me.
Okay, well, I think those are 2 very important aspects of how behavior sort of shape organizations. Thank you so very much, Gráinne and Carrie, for an engaging conversation. I think it's definitely given us some food for thought. And yeah, been a pleasure having you on the HGS podcast series Sonic.
Thank you.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Alrighty, well, now it's up to you really to make of it what you will. Thanks everybody for tuning in and for really being with us. And I think just like the behaviors, the conversation also, there's something for everyone to take away from. I'll catch you on the next one, but in the meantime, stay safe and stay happy.
Sonic, you're listening to the voice of HGS.